This might be the most dominant console launch we have ever seen. The Switch 2 officially released this weekend, and the opening day numbers are actually insane. Over 3 million units were sold in the first 24 hours, making it the most successful launch in console history. And to put that number into perspective, that beats out the PS4's launch by over 2 million units on day one. It's not just a new high for Nintendo, it's a milestone for the entire gaming industry. What makes this launch so fascinating is how it all came together. It wasn't just raw hype, it was carefully balanced mix of global demand and a massive supply readiness by Nintendo. Nintendo clearly prepared for this moment. Retailers were stocked, online queues were smooth, and for once, launch day didn't feel like you were entering a lottery. But availability is only part of that story. The bigger picture is how deeply this console has already connected with new players. The Switch 2 isn't just a next-gen system, it's a continuation of a philosophy by Nintendo. The hybrid model, the personal connection players feel with the hardware, the promise of a library that still feels alive, and Nintendo knew exactly how to tap into that demand. The messaging was clear, the anticipation was real, and when it came to deliver, they did not miss with the launch. But there's something deeper going on here with the launch of this new system. But before we continue, if this is your first time here on my channel, hi, hello there, my name is Brad. On this channel here, I make videos about game reviews, gaming news, and everything else in between, mostly just to share my thoughts about the things that make me happy that I do in my free time. If you're into those kind of things, subscribe to the channel. Now let's get back to the video. The Switch 2 launched with only one brand new first-party title, which ended up being Mario Kart World, and everything else, ports. Now, to be fair, this is not unusual. Most consoles launch with a handful of upgraded versions of their older games. It helps pad the library while studios ramp up for the full next-gen development of their games. But what Nintendo's doing with the pricing honestly raises some eyebrows. One of the biggest talking points right now is the re-release of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. A game that originally came out back in 2017, it is now being sold for $80 on the Switch 2. Now, yes, existing Switch owners can pay a $10 upgrade fee to access the enhanced version for the Switch 2, but for anyone else who's coming into the ecosystem fresh, that's a full price for a game that is nearly 10 years old. And this isn't just about the age of the title, it's about the value that's being offered with this game. Compare that to the game Oblivion that just released as a remaster a couple of months ago, a game that had a significantly larger scope with deeper systems and a higher production budget at the time of its release. That remaster launched for $50 across PS5, Xbox, and PC. All these platforms have stronger hardware and more technical capability than the Switch 2, and the game is significantly cheaper. So the question becomes, why is Nintendo setting a new standard price at $80 for content many players already experienced so many years ago? And honestly, it's not just about the cost, it's about how the value of these releases is being presented to the consumer, and whether players are getting something that truly feels new in exchange for that premium price tag. And this brings us to a much bigger conversation. Look, I want to see Nintendo do great. I really do. The success of the Switch 2 is exciting and it's good for gaming as a whole, but a strong Nintendo means more competition in the market, more creativity, and hopefully more games that dare to be different. But at the same time, this pricing model that Nintendo is going with, selling a 10-year-old game for $80, that's not innovation. That's just money scalping behavior at this point. And I really hope that all of this early success, these record-breaking launch numbers, actually translates into Nintendo putting more money back into their games for once, because historically that has not been the case. To date, the most expensive game that Nintendo has ever developed has been Breath of the Wild, which reportedly cost around $120 million, and that's a huge number for Nintendo. But when you compare it to industry standards, it's not exactly groundbreaking. Both of the recent God of War games cost closer to $200 million each to create. And sure, having a big budget does not always mean better quality. We've seen plenty of overfunded projects fall flat when they actually did release. But there are cases like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet where it's painfully obvious that not enough time, money, or care went into the final product of this game. Those games, despite being part of the highest grossing media franchise on the planet, had estimated budgets somewhere between $1 to $8 million. And you can feel that the moment you play it. The story felt lifeless, the world was buggy, and it was boring to explore. The battles, while nostalgic, were using mechanics that haven't been evolved in decades. And yet, the game still sold millions of copies, which is part of the problem. Nintendo knows their audience will show up no matter what. So the pressure to actually improve their content sometimes just isn't really there. But here's the thing, people want a great Pokemon game. I'm not even a huge Nintendo fan, but if they release a truly polished, ambitious Pokemon title that actually pushed the franchise forward, I would buy a new Switch just to experience that title. Because eventually, if Nintendo doesn't start seriously investing in its biggest franchises, someone else will. Look at Power World. That game might have started as a meme, but it tapped into the exact space Pokemon has been coasting on for years and improved. People are hungry for something fresh in the space. Nintendo has the resources, they have the legacy, they have the fan base. Now it's time to ask, do they have the ambition to try something new? Because right now, the Switch 2 is selling like crazy, but what comes next is going to matter a lot more. We're living in a time where a lot of the biggest companies in gaming either don't respect us as consumers, or worse, they think that we just don't care. They will keep showing up, keep buying, keep pre-ordering no matter what they release just because of brand loyalty. And honestly, looking at the launch numbers for the Switch 2, they may be right. Over 3 million copies were sold on day one. That's wild. And that's not just a win for Nintendo, it's a statement. But the question now is, can Nintendo keep up the energy going forward? Because launches are usually hype driven, they're emotional, it's easy to sell something new when everyone's curious about it, nostalgic, or caught up in the excitement of the new product. What's not easy is maintaining that interest once novelty fades. And that's where the Switch 2 has a point to prove. Yes, the hardware is moving fast, but what happens in 6 months, a year? What does the game lineup look like after the initial wave of ports starts to die down? Because if this generation ends up being a repeat of what we've already had, then what was the point of upgrading to the Switch 2 from the Switch 1? The future of the Switch 2 hinges entirely on its first-party games. That's Nintendo's strength, their legacy. That's their crown jewel. So the real test is coming. Can they launch new Mario titles that actually surprise us? Can they innovate, not just polish, but create something that players have not seen before? And even more importantly, can they introduce new IPs that actually matter to Nintendo? Games that aren't just riding on nostalgia, but carving out new emotional connections with an entirely new generation of players. That's the challenge. That's how you keep a console alive even after the hype initially fades. We know there's a new Pokemon game coming out later this year, and I want to be excited for the game. I really do. I want to believe that they're going to finally break the cycle of trash that Pokemon has been releasing over the last couple of years. But after what we got with Scarlet and Violet, I'm just not optimistic anymore. It feels like Game Freak and maybe even Nintendo knows that the game will sell regardless of the quality that it comes out as. So why take a risk? Why even evolve the formula of the game? But here's the thing, if Nintendo doesn't evolve, someone else will. We've already seen that start to happen. People want something new, something polished, something that respects their time and money. So yeah, 3 million consoles in a day is absolutely insane and it's just incredible. But now the spotlight is on Nintendo. This is no longer about launch hype. This is about what comes next for the company. Overall, the Switch 2 has made serious waves in the gaming industry. Whether you're a Nintendo fan or not, you can't deny the impact that this launch is going to have on the gaming industry. It's not just about the console release, it's a moment right now. And now the industry is watching. It's going to be interesting to see how Xbox and Sony both respond to this momentum from Nintendo. Do they shift strategies going forward? Do they speed up their own hardware plans in the future? And more immediately, we're still waiting to see if Sony even makes the move to raise the prices on their consoles and first-party games, especially now that Nintendo is leaning hard into that $90 to $80 range as the new normal. But bigger than that is the question sitting underneath all of this. Is this the beginning of a new era of dominance for Nintendo, a true shift in power and creativity, or was there just that much pent-up demand for the Switch 2 from the Switch 1? And now the real test begins. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Was this launch everything you hoped for, or are you still waiting to see if the games are even worth it? Or are you already diving into Mario Kart World and enjoying the ride? Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.